So this is one of the tools that we have that we kind of gives you a platform to talk about things, and I'm just going to share, kind of demonstrate it for you how I use it. And it's called the ECHO tool. ECHO is an acronym for 4 things. And we say, we ask you, so it's never too early to start thinking about what kind of legacy you want to leave behind. It's never too early to start asking yourself, what's the echo that my name is going to leave behind when I'm no longer part of this unit? When I move on, when I PCS, when I retire, whatever, when the name Adelson is spoke, what kind of echo is going to be heard? And we say that if you concentrate even on one of these 4 things, you might improve the sound of that echo just a little bit. The E is for empathy. And it goes back to understanding people's stories, like we talked about that Chick-fil-A video, General Welsh, knowing an airman's story. We were doing, after I left BMT, I was at AETC headquarters before PACE stood up, and so I still was involved with some BMT stuff, and so we had to take a general officer on a tour of BMT, and so I went back over to Lackland, and we were taking on the tour, and we went into the dining facility, and we had, of course, general officer, had a whole group of people following around, and we go in, and there was a young trainee mopping the floor in the dining facility. And as the group went by, I kind of just hung back for a second, and I went over to him because my heart's at BMT. That was the 2 best years of my career, and I just have a heart for young airmen. And so I just wanted to talk to him for a minute. I said, so, how you doing, trainee? Sir, I'm doing great. I said, what week of training are you in? Sir, I'm in the 3rd week of training. I mean, this guy was like, you remember Garfield, the cartoon, Garfield, and his buddy Odie? I mean, this kid was just all over it. And I said, 3rd week of training. Usually trainees in the 3rd week of training, BMT, not quite as excited as you are. And then he kind of calmed down a little bit, and he said, this kid was a little bit older. He was probably 27, 28 years old. And he said, sir, can I tell you my story? And I said, sure. And he said, I'm from Oman originally. And he said, because of some of the things that were going on in Oman, we had to leave my country, and we came to the United States. And he said, I was so grateful for the open arm reception that we got from the United States. He said, after we were here for a while, I wanted to give back. And he said, I thought serving in the military would be the way to do it. He said, so I enlisted in the United States Air Force. And I said, okay, I got that. But I said, dude, you're mopping floors. He said, you know what? When I was in Oman, when I lived in Oman, I used to own my own restaurant. He said, I used to hire people to mop my floors in my restaurant. He said, there's no better way to learn a business than from starting with mopping the floors and working your way up. And that's what I intend to do. I was so impressed with this story. I just heard another story on the break that impressed the heck out of me again. And the stories are all around us. I was so impressed with that story, I called the general and his people back. I'm like, sir, you gotta come back here. You gotta listen to this guy's story. They're out there. If we just take the time to hear those stories, you'd be amazed at some of the things that our airmen do, and I know you already know that. I was at the coin ceremony for BMT several months back. I don't know if you saw in the paper. I'm drawing a blank on the guy's name. He was an airman from Sierra Leone or someplace, and he had been a slave. He had been enslaved a couple times, taken from his country into another country in Africa or somewhere, and enslaved a couple times. He came back, but after all of that, he was on the Olympic team for his country. He was a runner, and he got to carry his country's flag into the opening ceremonies of the Olympics. And he came to the United States, and he enlisted in the United States Air Force. Imagine what he did in the PT test at BMT, being an Olympic runner. He kind of raised the bar a little bit. But those stories are all over the place around us if we just take the time to listen. If we have a little bit of empathy and we pay attention to people's story. So that's the E. That's empathy. The C is for charity. This isn't just giving of your money. When we think of charity, we usually think about giving money. I think there's something that we have that is way more valuable than money, and that's our time. We only have a finite amount of time, and how we spend it is a really important decision. General Rand used to be the AETC commander. He's 4-star. Up until recently, he was Global Strike Commander. He just retired. That's a huge loss to our Air Force. But he told the story when he was a 2-star, I think he was a 2-star, he was a NAF commander, I think. And he told the story, he used to go out and fly in that position. And after he was there for a few times, after he'd flown a few times, he realized that when he came back from flying, that this young airman, the same young airman, met his plane every single time. And so General Rand, he'd come back, he'd park the jet, and his staff car would be waiting over there someplace. And so he'd have to walk from the jet to his staff car. And so after he realized it was the same young airman every time, he started to invite this airman, why don't you come walk with me, young man? First couple times, the airman was like, I'm walking with the general. I don't know if this is good or not. But he did that. You know, he just walked with him. And he just, the first few times, just, tell me about yourself. Where are you from? What are you doing in the Air Force? Why'd you come in the Air Force? Well, just get to know him. That went on several times. And then General Rand, he either PCS'd or he was gone for a while. And he came back to the same place, same kid met his plane. He got out, started walking to his car, didn't invite the young airman this time, and the young airman said to General Rand, sir, can I walk with you? General Rand said, son, it's okay, we don't have to do that anymore if you don't want. He said, sir, can I walk with you? General Rand said, of course you can. And as they started walking, this young man said, sir, I've gotten myself into some trouble. And it's the kind of trouble my mom's not going to be very proud of. He said, sir, you have become more of a father figure to me than anybody else has in my life. Just in those few walks from the jet to the car. He said, I just wondered if you could give me some advice. Now, when General Rand told that story, he said, and so I would like to introduce you all to Master Sergeant so-and-so. That young man was there. He'd grown up to be a Master Sergeant in the United States Air Force, even though he'd gotten himself into some trouble. General Rand said, I'm not saying that I was responsible for this young man being a Master Sergeant, but who knows? Who knows? Who knows the impact that one simple act can have on somebody? So if you have habit patterns, this is where it gets into, we're not asking you to do new things. We're asking you to think about the things you're already doing and maybe doing them just in a little bit different way. If you're walking to a staff meeting every day, every week or something where you can include somebody else, bring them along. You never know what's going to happen. Charity, giving of your time. The H is for humility. My boss, the former boss, the guy that stood up pace, Dr. Smith, he said, next time you're in a room with one other person, assume for a minute that maybe you're not the most important person in the room. Now this is coming from a guy who was an 06 PhD, SAS commandant. Considered himself not the more important person in the room. When I was at Altus Air Force Base, I was a young major, and Colonel Mike Gould, who went on to become General Gould, who was the superintendent of the Air Force Academy, he was my wing commander at Altus. I was a young major. He didn't know me from Adam. He didn't know who I was. He said he stood up at one of his wing commander's calls, and he said, if you ever want to come and talk to me, just let me know. He said, I'd love to chat with you one-on-one. And of course, my first reaction was like, yeah, whatever. The wing commander, he's got to say that because he's a wing commander. But I was getting ready to PCS, and there was something I can't remember in Colonel Gould's past that I thought would be interesting for me to find out before I went on to my next assignment. And so I made that appointment with him to go meet with him in his office. And so the day rolled around. We were supposed to meet at like 1 o'clock or whatever. And I was working over in the OSS, and so I ran back to my office at like 12:45 to grab my stuff to go over to get to his office. And I come running around the corner to my office, and there's the wing commander sitting in my office. And I like panicked because oh my gosh, was I late? And he came over to hunt me down? Sir, what are you doing here? And he said, it's kind of noisy over in my office. He said, I just thought maybe we'd have a better conversation if I came over here to you. The wing commander. I just met Colonel Pierce, your wing commander? What a super guy he seems to be. Same kind of person. He'll show up in your office someday, just come talk to you, I think. So be prepared. But that idea that the wing commander, consider yourself that maybe he wasn't the most important person, that maybe he could take a few minutes out of his time to come to me. I'm telling that, that happened back in probably, 1998, so however many, 20 years ago, I'm still telling that story. It made that big impression on me. So humility goes a long way. And then finally, the O is for optimism. You only got to open up a newspaper or turn on the news on TV to find pessimism, right? All the things that are wrong. with the world? Man, how about being a 60-watt bulb in a 40-watt world? How about being that shining example of what's right, about what's positive? I ran into a chief at the gym. I'm kind of on a regular schedule at the gym, and so guys seem to be that way. I don't know. There's a few guys that we're on the same schedule. We go to the gym at the same time. We are in the locker room together. I was getting dressed next to this one chief, and it was a Monday. I said, "Chief, how you doing?" He's like, "Oh, Monday. I hate Mondays. I just And after he walked away, I thought, I wonder what kind of impression he gives his troops if he takes that attitude into the office with him. Nobody really likes Mondays. But can we fake it once in a while? Could we be optimistic? Could we say, I'm healthy, I'm alive, I got a job, I got another opportunity to touch people's lives for another 5 days, put some kind of positives. Be optimistic. Be positive instead of being pessimistic. People will, when you know those kind of people, sometimes you can't really put your finger on it, but after you're with the positive people, the optimistic people, after they leave, you're like, I'm not sure what it was, but I just like being around that guy. I just feel better after I'm around him. Lots of times that comes from optimism. So what's your echo? We say like I said before, if you even focus on one of these things for 30 days, it will probably have a positive impact, or the likelihood is there that you will. Thank you. Indulging my habit, my addiction. Thank you so much for helping me stay addicted. Don't tell my wife. Oh, jeez, I did it. Totally lost my train of thought. Yeah, just focus on one of those things for 30 days, and chances are, the probability is there that relationships, that things will just start going your way. I can't promise that, but the probability is good that it will. So that's our echo thing. And this isn't just a workplace thing. You can take these things, family, community, in the workplace, and it'll have a positive impact on you. All right. We're going to kind of skip through this. Take just a second to do this. So think about yourself as a leader. And I don't care, again, what position you're in. You are all leaders in this room. There are a couple words or phrases that people might use to describe you. Are they the words that you want people to use to describe you? I think I know the words I would like people to use to describe me. I don't think I'm there yet, though. I would like people to describe me as a good listener. I got a ways to go with my wife, because I'm not quite there yet. This is just a an exercise that you can do at any time. Again, we think we know the answers to these things. I had an interesting experience. This stays in this room, right? Right? We got academic freedom in here. So, and I don't mean to disparage our Army guys in any way, but I did a leadership training exercise where we do personality assessments on a group of people when I was in Italy, and we did it. I had an Army component. It was all Army people in the room, and we were talking about treating people. We talked about the golden rule, which is treat people the way you would like to be treated. You treat others the way you'd like to be treated. Well, when we talk about it, we put a different twist on that. We talk about the platinum rule. At the end of the day, I'm a very reserved person. I had this discussion with somebody out in the hallway that it takes a lot for me to get up in front of people and do this. I like to do it, but it takes a lot of energy out of me. So I'm naturally reserved. I'm not really outgoing. We have a guy that's in PACE that is really, off the charts outgoing. He's one of those people that when he comes into the building in the morning, the whole building knows he's there. Hey, good morning, how's everybody doing? I close my office door. It just takes a lot of energy out of me to do that. And so we talk about treating people the way they would like to be treated. Don't treat me the way you think you want to be treated. Treat me the way I want to be treated. That's the platinum rule. And so I threw that out there I threw that, I'll get back to you, sir. I threw that out there to these Army guys, and this Army guy goes, wait a minute, wait. You mean to tell me that, he's like, if I can just steamroll people and get them to do what I want them to do, I don't care how they want to be treated as long as I can get the results. If I can get the results, doesn't that make me more effective leader? I said, if results, first I thought he was kidding. I thought he was just kind of poking fun at me. And I said, well, if results are the only thing you're interested in, perhaps. But I said, what kind of path do you leave behind you after you leave? And I said, I think in the Army, as in the other services, one of your jobs as an NCO, senior NCO, or as an officer is to build up the people around you, right? Not just to beat them down. Yeah, but we're interested in results. So I couldn't get through that guy. So some people have a hard time wrapping their mind around this. But what kind of leader do you want to be? And what are the words that people would use to describe you? All right. When I go around and I do those leadership training assessments, that assessment puts everybody in one of two categories. Either you're a results-oriented person or you're a relationship-oriented person. The interesting part about this is I've gone around the Air Force, 70%, on average, 70% of our Air Force people are results-oriented people, according to this test. I think that's probably pretty accurate. But I do an exercise at the beginning of every time I do these assessments, and I say, I want you to think about the best leader that you've ever had, the best leader that you've ever experienced. You don't even have to actually personally serve with this person. You could have just read about him. Abraham Lincoln is one of my favorite leaders. And I'm not that old that I was around when Abraham Lincoln was. But I want you to think about that leader, and I ask him, if you had to pick one quality about what puts that leader in that category, the best leader that you've ever experienced, what would that one quality be? And I ask everybody to share what that quality is. And even though 70% of the Air Force are results-oriented folks, 75 to 80% of the responses that I get from people about what puts that person as the best leader they've ever experienced are relationship-oriented traits. There are things like on that last slide, like we talked about earlier today, if you're going to lead me, you better care about me, you better trust me, you better empower me, you better know me. I don't know still what to make of that, but I think it's interesting that we talk about that being the leadership squeeze. When you think about people that are above you and below you, what do you want usually out of the people below you? Is you want them, you want results. I mean, the people above you, they want results. But the people that are below you, they want from you, they want you to know them, to empower them, to trust them, to build them up. And so from above, you're getting this, I want results. From below you, you're getting, I want you to trust me, I want you to empower me, I want you to be a relationship-oriented people. So it puts us kind of in this, what we call this leadership squeeze, that we're looked at. There we have different expectations from above and below. So the point is, all those 75 to 80% of those people say the best leader quality was a relationship-oriented thing. People care more about how you make them feel than how smart you are. That old phrase, we don't care how much you know until we know how much you care, kind of thing, goes a long way with folks. And particularly, we had an interesting discussion at lunch about millennials, and what are they looking for from us as leaders. All right. So we've been talking about awareness. These tools provide you some action points. Put them two together, and that's what leads to change. So that thing that I just talked about before, that what are the two words that describe you? Are those the words that you want to be described with? And now flip it. Instead of how they might describe you, how do you make them feel? As a leader, how do you make them feel? It's up to you. It is your choice. Do you have an action plan? Here's some things. I know in the back, we got a couple other screens. These are really small. I'm not going to go through each one of these things. We've talked a lot today about knowing ourselves. This self-awareness thing is what we've been trying to get at today. We need to build this culture. We need to be explicit about what we want from our airmen. What type of culture are we talking about building? If we just put some flowery words up there, are people going to understand those? Are their green blocks going to help them see it the same way that we see it? So we've got to be very specific about the culture that we're trying to build. And then we've got to develop our folks. We've got to give them this stuff and let them run with it. Because what kind of change are we talking about making? Are we talking about that mandate change that's only going to last as long as you're there? Or are you going to have an impact, an echo that lasts after you're gone? So we got to develop our people and let them own this. And then I'm going to put another plug in for being a reader. I've recommended a lot of books today. Most of the leadership stuff that I have read says that all leaders are readers. Most leaders are readers. Doesn't mean that if you're a reader that you're going to be a leader, but most leaders are readers. There's so much information out there, especially on this topic, and I'll show you some more suggested reading books here in a little bit. All right, so this is how you get to us to check out our tools that we're going to talk about here for a few minutes. We've got a website and we've got a Facebook page that you come and visit. Again, if you look through all of that, our stuff, all of our tools, and you find something, you've got some issue you're trying to address and there's nothing that addresses it, let us know, and we will see if we can come up with something. So if you go to our website, I don't know how after so many years, 70 years of Air Force, that, well, we weren't 70 when we stood up, but that the website www.airmen.af.mil was still available for us to use, but it was, so we grabbed it. So that's our website. You come to our website, you click on Tools Matrix. It's one of the ways to get to them. And there's all kinds of different things that come up. There is an actual matrix that comes up that there are different categories. So if you can describe which category that you're struggling with or your unit is going through, it gives all of our tools and it puts a check mark in the different columns, so at least you kind of get you started in the right direction. We've got a bunch of pace setters. We realize that because of how busy you are, if we have like directions on how to do things that are like 5 or 10 pages long, nobody's going to read them. So all these pace setters, these suggestions, they're one page for the most part, just one page quick things that you can use. A lot of this stuff is not new to you. Think tanks certainly aren't new, but man, you want to know what's on your folks' mind? Put a think tank together. Get a group of people together, throw them together, put them in a room, and throw them a question. Say, give me your thoughts on this, or what do you think? What's the health of the unit? Whatever it is that you want them to talk about, you're going to get some great feedback, and your folks are going to feel like they've been heard. They get to share their opinions. We've got some case studies in character development, just case studies on great leaders that just for discussion purposes, if you've got a staff meeting or a flight meeting or whatever, you want to have a discussion with your folks on character development, there's some case studies in there. 3 slides. Has anybody seen a 3-slide presentation? We do this at Pace, and there's been a lot of wings that have adopted this, particularly when new people come to a unit. You give them an assignment, and you say, you need to create 3 slides. And you're going to present those 3 slides in front of the unit or at the next staff meeting or whatever. And the young airman's going to flip out. I got to do what? Here's the beauty of it. 3 slides. They can't get it wrong. The first slide is, who are the people that are important to you? Who has had an impact in your life? And most of the time, mine has family members up there. So the first slide is who's important to you, who's had an impact on your life. The second slide is, where are you from? Where did you grow up? Where did you come from? And the third slide is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Now, twofold on this. Well, there's several advantages to doing this. One is, first of all, they can't get that information wrong. Right? They can't put pictures of their family up there and somebody in the audience can say, that's not your mom. It just doesn't happen. Right? They can't get it wrong. And it doesn't take a whole lot of thought to put this thing together, right? The other thing is the unit, the people in the audience, all get to know this new person, this new airman. So it's a way for the person to be welcome. And I will tell you, I've never seen a 3-slide presentation done in front of a decent-sized crowd where there wasn't some kind of connection made. I put mine up there. I'm a cheesehead from Wisconsin. Somebody in the back of the room, no way, I'm from Wisconsin too, where'd you grow up? You know, I mean, there's just an instant connection that's made. And the other benefit of doing this, it gets our young folks up in front of people, standing up and talking in front of people, which I think is a huge benefit. It's a huge ability to be able to stand up in front of people and talk. Now, it can be terrifying the first few times you do it, but it helps getting them up there. So anybody that comes to base, they've got to put their three sides together and present it to the unit. Commander's call? Well, the commander's calls. Who normally plans a commander's call? Well, usually the commander has something to say about it, and